Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Dr. Kimberly Citron. She is Director of Domestic Violence, Research and Education at New Horizons Domestic Violence Shelter. It's her first time on the show. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you for having me.
You are a licensed psychologist. You are very smart. I may have the glasses on, but you are the smart one here today. Thanks for being on the show. Tell us about New Horizons. What is it?
New Horizons is a domestic violence organization. It is a program of the Community Health Center and a member of the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence. We are a shelter, a safe house, a 10-bed facility. We also have family violence victim advocates in the Middletown courts, and we also offer individual counseling in the community and community education.
How did New Horizons come to be in the first place?
That's a great story. Thanks for asking. In the early 1970s, there was a safe house in Middletown for victims of domestic violence. And unfortunately, an abuser burned the shelter to the ground. And the saving grace is that everyone got out safely and no one was injured. However, there was no longer a shelter to provide safe housing to women fleeing intimate partner violence. So a group of women who ran the shelter approached Mark Maselli, the CEO of Community Health Center, and asked if he would step in and provide support, and he was happy to do so. So here we are today.
I think the term domestic violence gets thrown around a lot without necessarily understanding what the definition of it is. What is domestic violence?
So domestic violence or intimate partner violence is a pattern of coercion and abuse in an intimate partner relationship. An intimate partner can be anyone ranging from a dating partner, a romantic partner, someone that you reside with, that you live with, someone who you simply have a sexual relationship with. It can exist in heterosexual relationships, same-sex relationships, and all of these components are not necessary to form intimate partner violence. So a sexual relationship is not a necessary component, but it can be one component.
And when you talk about domestic violence, intimate partner domestic violence, that's probably the most or the numbers really will scream out at you how significant it is, correct?
It really is. The numbers are startling. So we now know that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men are victims of intimate partner violence in their lifetime. And so these are our sisters, our daughters, our mothers, our neighbors, our friends. And when you really picture, if you're in a room full of a large group of people, if you look around you and 1 in 4 of those women and 1 in 7 of those men are currently in danger in their relationships.
Wow. And it's probably even more startling when people learn that you mentioned men in that too. Men are victims of domestic violence too.
Absolutely, in both same-sex and heterosexual relationships. So as a psychologist, I've worked with several male victims of intimate partner violence, some of whom were aware of the coercive elements of their relationship and some who really came for treatment with no awareness whatsoever of the ways in which that elements of power and control were present in their relationships.
Power and control is really what it's all about. It's probably a tough question even for a trained psychologist to answer, but the underlying causes of domestic violence in the first place, and there's probably a million different ways that it can come about, right?
Absolutely. So we do know that witnessing domestic violence or living in a household with domestic violence, whether you witness it or not, is one risk factor for growing up to be in a relationship characterized by intimate partner violence. And we know that there are several kind of colliding factors, psychological factors, sociological factors, that can contribute to elements of power and control in a relationship. But what's really striking is that these elements of power and control exist in relationships among all cultures, all ethnicities, all socioeconomic brackets. And so it really is a pervasive public health and social problem that is very real and warrants critical attention.
And how much of it is not reported? People living with it and don't let anybody else know about it. They just somehow, some way try to deal with it on their own?
Well, unfortunately, because it's not reported, we don't have accurate numbers. But if we know that 1 in 4 women are victims of intimate partner violence, you can only imagine how many more cases are going unreported. And what's particularly of concern is that for these cases that go unreported, when you think about the mortality of intimate partner violence and the number of people who lose their lives to being killed in intimate partner relationships, then we really see what a serious public health problem we're dealing with.
And I think another startling notion that people might not be aware of is that the end result is what you said, the ultimate tragedy, which is death that happens. It's not just domestic violence in the sense that someone is being treated badly. They could die because of it, and it does happen.
It does happen. It happens at a startling rate. So nationally, there are about 12,000 intimate partner homicides each year. Within the state of Connecticut, we're averaging about 14 intimate partner homicides per year. And so, I mean, we know that more than half of female murder victims are killed by an intimate partner. They're killed by someone that they know and are close to. And so we need to begin to intervene earlier than we are in order to prevent these deaths from happening.
For people, is there a fear factor? Is there a pride factor where sometimes someone won't report it or won't seek help because either they're delusional and think that there's nothing wrong, or they're just flat out afraid of what could happen if they do take that next step to try to get help?
Absolutely, and that's part of the insidious nature of intimate partner violence, is that you are programmed, you're bred to think that you have no other options. So coming forward seems like a completely unrealistic step to take. And so part of what I'm seeking to change is really culture's language around domestic violence. People are uncomfortable talking about it. Medical providers, psychologists, social workers.
Is it a taboo thing, or is it like one of those things where it's embarrassing to discuss? Or
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's so much less taboo than it used to be years ago. However, I mean, I recently did a presentation on screening for intimate partner violence in primary care. And so the United States Preventative Services Task Force recommends screening for females ages 14 and up. Yet the prevalence rate of screening by primary care providers is between 3 and 41%. So these are educated medical behavioral health providers who are still uncomfortable asking their patients whether they're dealing with intimate partner violence.
is that the reason? Are they uncomfortable asking, or do they not know what to look for? Are they properly trained to know, to be able to see a potential for domestic violence?
That's absolutely right, Sean. It's discomfort. It's not knowing what to ask. It's not knowing when to ask.
Feeling that the patient may get irate that you even brought it up in the first place?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You never know how someone, it's an extremely personal question to
Yeah.
ask someone. And I think providers don't want to invade their patient's space in that way. However, much of the literature shows that oftentimes for women or men suffering from intimate partner violence, the healthcare world is their only point of contact. It's the only place that they go is to seek treatment for medical illnesses or injuries that are and are not related to the intimate partner violence that they're experiencing. So as providers, we really need to be aware of the signs and increase our comfort level in discussing these things. And then if you take it outside of the medical world or psychological practice, as I said, these are our neighbors, our sisters, our daughters, your coworkers. In corporate America, we all need to become more comfortable talking about intimate partner violence, recognizing the signs, and offering an intervention if we think that someone we know is in danger.
And there's another issue where you don't want to necessarily offend or invade somebody's personal space by even considering an intervention, even if you know it may help the person, because again, if it's your coworker or your friend, what will their reaction be if you say, hey, can I talk to you? Is there a problem? And if they're like, what do you, they'll get irate with you for bringing it up in the first place.
It's possible,
Yeah.
but I think, if you suspect that someone that you know is affected by intimate partner violence, you always want to take a non-judgmental, understanding, supportive stance, because it won't help anyone to say, we often hear, why did you stay so long, or why don't you leave? And those are not really helpful or supportive questions. It's more, I want you to know I'm someone who cares about you, and I sense that something might be wrong, and I just want you to know that I'm here for you, and I can offer you support myself, or I can let you know where you could find support, and really just doing it in a non-judgmental, comforting, supportive manner.
It's amazing that. Why didn't you do something about it? Why didn't you leave already? Those, if the person could have, they would have already. It's like the
Exactly.
worst question you could ask in the first place.
It really is, and it ignores, as I said before, the insidious nature of these relationships. So it starts as you might be dating someone or in a relationship with someone, and they put you down, first in private, and then later publicly. They insult you. They tap into a sense of worthlessness or helplessness. They want you to feel that way. And then this can escalate to isolating you, either creating problems in your friendships, relationships with family members. Really, they try to restrict your support network as much as possible. And then it could lead into financial abuse, economic abuse, not having access to your own finances. So then your choices are limited by what you can afford. And so to ask someone in that situation, why didn't you leave sooner? It places the onus on the individual who's being abused and doesn't recognize the many, many factors that have been in play for so long up until that point to make it so that that person can't reach out for help.
Right.
By design, you are not supposed to be able to reach out for help.
You were flat out trapped at that point a little ways down the road, like you were talking about. And early on, you may not even recognize the signs if it starts out with, insults here and there. You may think that they're a rotten person, but you may not be aware that those are signs of potential domestic abuse beginning to build to a much more serious situation.
Exactly. And that's how it happens. I mean, the nature of most of these relationships are, there's something there that attracts you to one another, and you like this person, you come to love this person and rely on this person. And these things happen, it's not overnight typically. This is over a period of time, and your defenses get worn down over time. Your self-esteem can get eaten away at. Even the most confident women. I mean, we work with women who are professionals. We work with doctors who are victims of intimate partner violence. We work with all sorts of people from all different walks of life that are involved in these relationships. And so oftentimes, it starts as one thing and it progressively turns into something else. And that's both with women and with men.
I want to take a break and come back. Is there a New Horizons website for people to go and learn more?
There is. We are at newhorizonsdv.com.
All right. Simple website. Kimberly Citron, the Director of Domestic Violence Research and Education at New Horizons Domestic Violence Shelter. That's a lot to fit on a business card, by the way.
It certainly is.
We will take
Thank
a
you,
short
Sean.
break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay right there. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest is Dr. Kimberly Citron. She is the Director of Domestic Violence Research and Education at New Horizons Domestic Violence Shelter. As far as like the territory that you serve, like Middlesex County, basically?
Yes. New Horizon is the member organization of Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence in Middlesex County. So in Middlesex County, New Horizons is the DV organization, and throughout the rest of Connecticut, there are amazing member organizations of the coalition.
All right. So many things I want to get to, so I'm just going to kind of bounce around a little bit. One of the things about domestic violence is impact on children. I want you to talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. So we know that children who witness domestic violence or who live in households characterized by intimate partner violence are at greater risk for all sorts of behavioral health problems and physical health problems. Adolescent boys who grow up in these homes are at a twofold increased risks of abusing their partners later in life, and females who grow up in these households are at a twofold risk of being victimized in their future relationships. And I kind of characterize the problems that children in households characterized by domestic violence face in terms of their age level and development level. So in infancy, you might see problems attaching to their primary caregiver, problems interacting with their environment. At a very young age, they can begin to seem fearful of their environment. In toddlerhood, these children might exhibit some separation anxiety beyond what you would expect based on their age. These children also might have difficulty attaching to their primary caregiver or other adults in their lives, or at the opposite end of the spectrum, they can become extremely disinhibited, which actually puts them at risk of victimization from other adults in the community, because these are children who will seek attention from wherever they can get it. As children get older and they're school-aged, living in a house characterized by domestic violence certainly puts them at risk for school refusal, decreased academic performance, decreased school attendance. These children can still appear very anxious and fearful. They can also appear aggressive, have difficulty with their peer relationships. And then, adolescence is a time of a lot of changes, and I think the increased cognitive abilities in adolescence allow children to begin to think about the abuse in a way that they might not have been capable of before. And this actually opens up a whole other host of problems. At this age, children might begin to identify with either the abused or abusive parent. If they're identifying with the abused parent, this could actually put them at increased risk of victimization, for instance, if they're trying to protect the abused parent. If they identify with the abusive parent, it can put them at risk of becoming abusive in their own relationships. Adolescence is a time where you see triangulation as being most prominent. Triangulation is when one parent attempts to form an alliance with the child against the other parent. And so that can really create a host of problems in dealing with one's own identity. And, adolescence is a really critical time, Sean, where we can see that the cycle of violence moves on to another generation. So this is an extremely important point of intervention for school administrators, teachers, healthcare providers, anyone who sees something that's amiss.
And it's up to all those people you just mentioned to be able to identify those issues, because a child is even less likely to be able to, if they're experiencing something, to reach out even more so than an adult would at least have the ability to reach out if they could. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, the thing about adolescence is, even if there was no domestic violence issue at all, isn't that the time when all the hormones are changing and things are going on? So that's all kinds of stuff that they have to deal with without all this extra layer of domestic violence on top. How do they deal with it?
Well, it really is a tumultuous time, and you're struggling with your own identity to figure out who you are. It's a critical time for the development of self-esteem. And if you're living essentially in a war zone and you can't find peace outside of yourself, imagine how difficult it becomes to find peace within yourself.
Yeah, I want to take it just a little bit older to the teenage years, because now there's issues with teen dating violence, and the teens, they're really into social media, and that is certainly an outlet for them to vent or cause trouble, because that's where they hang out. That's their domain.
Yes, and social media, there is such a thing as technological abuse, and so technology is being used to perpetrate intimate partner violence. And so what is going on with a lot of teenagers is some of those first signs that I was talking to you about earlier in adulthood, where people start to become controlling of their partners, things like that. So teenagers might see that a dating partner begins to monitor their cell phone activity, their social media activity, some of the insidious types of insults that we see take place might take place publicly on social media. And so the technology creates another sphere in which teenagers are able to act aggressively towards one another. And so we see that in bullying behavior between non-intimate partners or groups of peers. And then, of course, it's a huge danger for teens who are in dating relationships.
Now, as we speak, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month?
Yes, it is.
What is that?
Domestic Violence Awareness Month is in October, as you said, and It is a time where we wear purple ribbons. Purple is the dedicated color for domestic violence awareness.
They're trying to get the word out,
We
right?
really try to get the word out and create a dialogue around domestic violence. It's also a time where we have several events to raise funds for domestic violence. And so we at New Horizons are having several events this October that we're really, really excited about.
One is a walk. Everybody, all organizations have a walk. Gotta
Yes.
have a walk,
Yes,
right? Yeah. And you have to
absolutely.
wait until the summer's over because it's too hot to be walking in the middle of the summer, right? So,
And this you'll like, Sean. This
yeah.
is the walk to end the silence.
Okay.
So really, just as today you're helping to create a dialogue around intimate partner violence, the walk is meant to do the same. It's meant to end the silence around intimate partner violence. And then on so the walk is on October 9th. It's a Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4 in Middletown. And then on October 20th, we are actually hosting game show night at the boardroom, where we will be playing Wheel of Fortune to raise awareness and funds for domestic violence.
and are there events throughout the year from time to time, whether it be awareness or fundraising events?
There are
Okay.
throughout the year, and we will be looking into what we can offer in the springtime, as October is quite busy. So
And all those events are listed on the website. If you happen to be watching the show or on YouTube or at a later date, just go to the website. All the events are listed there for all upcoming things.
yes, they are.
Before we run out of time, we only have a few minutes left. I just want to touch a little bit more specifically on all the services that you do offer, because it's pretty vast. Everything from what we've been talking about to legal help, in a sense. Talk about that a little bit.
absolutely. So at New Horizons, we offer the hotline. It's 24 hours, 365 days a year. Anytime someone is in need, they call the hotline, and they get an adult advocate on the phone. This is a live person who is well trained to counsel you when you are coping with intimate partner violence.
What
So
is the hotline?
the hotline is,
We're going to put the graphic up on the screen,
Sure.
so that's fine. If you don't remember
it's
it, that's
1-888-774-2900.
excellent.
And that is a statewide domestic violence hotline that will direct the call to the appropriate member organization of the Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And then in Middletown, New Horizons can be reached at 860-344-9599.
All right. And so many other things too. Legal help and advocate in the courtroom, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you call the hotline, our safety planning is first and foremost. An advocate can help you plan safely to either exit your situation or to just provide you the support that you need while you're in your situation. We also have family violence victim advocates in the Middletown courts. And so these are advocates who are trained to assist with restraining orders, any sort of legal steps that can be taken to put some protections in place. They can also assist with custody matters, immigration issues. And so those are the family violence victim advocates in the courts. We also offer individual counseling in the community. So there's often this misconception that if a woman is not ready to escape her situation, if she does not need shelter, that we do not have services for her. And if I can dispel one myth here today.
Absolute misconceptions are a big deal, so let's do that.
That is it. So even if a woman is not in need of temporary emergency shelter, she can still meet with an advocate in the community. She can still be engaged in safety planning. She can still receive services from the family violence victim advocates in the court. So any of the New Horizons services that are available to women and children in shelter are also available to women and children in the community.
We are out of time, but I hope, and there was so much more we could have gotten to, but I hope we spent the time we did getting the word out, awareness, and please go to the website. Call one of the numbers that we'll put up on the screen again for you, even if you suspect something or just want answers, you're there for them, right?
Thank you so much, Sean. We're there if anybody needs us.
Dr. Kimberly Citron, she's the Director of Domestic Violence Research and Education at New Horizons Domestic Violence Shelter. Thank you for being on the show. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much, Sean.
You can see this show and many others on our YouTube sites. Until next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.